Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Nerdcast. I'm Mark Etheridge. I'm here with Kendall Rogers and Aaron Fitt, and we're going to pick the field of 64. We're going to go through all the conferences, get the automatic bids, the at-larges, and try to figure out, how to make sense of it all. Certainly, since we met 2 weeks ago, a lot has happened. The SEC is in utter turmoil in some places and just giddy in others, and you have a lot of teams trying to figure out, okay, where do I stand as I head down the last 5 weeks of conference play and then the conference tournaments ahead. Keep in mind that this is we are projecting, so we pull out our crystal balls and see how these teams are going to do the next few weeks. So it's not as of today, although that obviously plays a big part in it. Guys, what do you think? We want to kick this thing off?
Yeah, I'll say this. I know exactly where I stand. I know these teams are trying to figure out where they stand. I stand with the Nerdmaster General. I just want to get that on the record.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go, guys. We'll start at the top. It's the last time we did this, it was Arkansas. Certainly since then, they did lose their first series of the year at Alabama last week. Texas A&M, for me, may be playing better than anybody. They may be the most complete team in the country, but I think those are the two teams to consider. And it's not just today, it's where we think they're going to finish, in 6 weeks from now.
Yeah, and for me, it's still Arkansas. I still think they're the best team. I still think they have by far and away the best pitching, and so they would be my vote. They're still actually a game ahead of A&M in the standings, so I know they're a few spots behind them in the RPI. Arkansas 6, A&M 2, but
more sweeps.
Yeah. So that would be my vote. But I mean, I would listen to an argument for the Aggies as well.
Kendall?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, kind of for me, it boils down to who I probably think wins the head-to-head the final weekend. Because I think if you look at the remaining schedules for both of those teams, I think they're both going to finish pretty well. And I'd probably take A&M at home. But again, I don't think there's a wrong answer here, frankly.
Right. That's an interesting point because, we can pick nits over these two teams, all evening. But I do think that right now A&M, the offense is so much better than Arkansas's. Arkansas is going to win a lot of games 5-4 and 5-2 and sometimes 6-0. Yeah. But A&M is going to bludgeon people and score double digits. And the question is what happens when they face a pitching staff like Arkansas, because they've seen some pretty good ones, but they haven't seen anything like that. If you haven't played Arkansas, you haven't seen that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Well, on the flip side, not to get too deep in the weeds analysis wise, but on the flip side, I would say that the gap between the two pitching staffs is a lot thinner than it was a month ago. Like A&M's bullpen is not a step down from Arkansas at this point.
Well, Arkansas just got more guys, but I think A&M, they're pitching at a really high level. Yeah. They certainly are.
And the stats back that up. If you look at the team ERAs, Arkansas number 1 in the league at 2.64, A&M number 2 in the league at 3.20. It's still a pretty sizable gap. But I imagine that I have to look at the national leaderboard, but I imagine Arkansas leads the country, right?
I can't imagine anyone's put up better numbers.
You got to. What's the offensive difference in conference?
So Arkansas, by the way, 2.64. In fact, is number 1 in the country. A&M number 2 in the country at 3.20.
Oh, that's crazy, isn't it? Amazing that they're 1 and 2 in the country overall.
Yeah. And that's, I don't know that there's a wrong answer here. I kind of like Kendall's idea of going with the team that's going to win the head-to-head, and that game is in College Station. So for me, that would be how I would break the tie.
I still have the most confidence in Arkansas, regardless, even on the road. But I defer to you guys on that. I think that's a perfectly valid perspective.
Okay.
So it is a easy thing because there's not a wrong answer.
Right.
Although there will be an Arkansas fan who will claim that we hate Arkansas.
Well, you are disrespected if you're number 2 overall. I'll just flat out tell you.
Listen, guys, there's no wrong answer except for the one that you guys arrived at. That my answer was right, yours was wrong. But anyway.
Well, we'll see. I do think that the next group here, and I've kind of got them grouped here. They're in no particular order. It's Clemson, Kentucky, Tennessee, maybe even Florida State. I think those are the next 4 for me. If you maybe make a case for Oregon State in there somewhere as well. And maybe North Carolina. I think those are my top 8. These guys right here listed. It's just what sequence do you want to put them in? And I'll open it up to you guys.
I will say this: Clemson is still number 1 in the RPI.
Yep.
And I know where Aaron's going to go with Clemson, and I think he has a good point, and we'll talk about that in a second. But Clemson guys, they are 10-1 against Q1 and 10-4 against Q2. They've got 20 wins against the top two quads.
Yeah, you
which
thought you
is
knew where I was
impressive.
going, Kendall, but you're wrong. I'm with you. Clemson, I think, should be number
Okay.
3 based on the
I
season.
figured you
they've
had
had.
pointed to injuries and potentially,
Yeah,
getting out, having a slow finish.
I'd be a little concerned about that for
Okay.
sure. But based on what they've accomplished so far, and they've had injuries,
Alrighty.
and they're still 29-6, number 1 in the RPI. So
Yeah.
I think they deserve the benefit of the doubt. And I would.
But then they swept Florida State,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, that's
that
a
may
pretty
be
big
who we're
win,
talking
yeah.
about next.
Okay, I can get behind that. So the next thing, I mean, Kentucky, Tennessee, they play this weekend in Lexington. What a huge matchup that'll be. Joe Healy will be there, so it's a cool deal for him. For me, those are the next two. I mean, you want to make a case for anyone else here?
I
Go ahead, Aaron.
I would just say, I like Kentucky. I just think sitting at 14-1 in the league is insane. Is utterly
Crazy, man.
insane.
Sure is.
12-0 against Q1. Kentucky is the most Q1 wins in college baseball right now.
Yeah. So I like that.
Wow. Yeah, I would like to say. I mean, there is a head-to-head element with Tennessee, and I would like to say I like Tennessee this weekend. But man, at this point, it's kind of like it's hard to not pick the Batcats.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that ballpark suits them a lot better than Tennessee.
Yeah. Well, the thing about Kentucky is they're hitting home runs, man. I mean, they're up among the SEC leaders in SEC games in bombs. Yeah.
Right behind A&M and Tennessee.
And Ryan Nicholson he's up there at the top of the conference in SEC homers. It's just we're jaded because we saw them last year and they were very small ballish at times. This year they can still do that, but they can also do other things. So they can beat you so many different ways. I'm really bullish on the Cats right now.
And it's interesting because if you look at the SEC home run leaders for overall stats, Kentucky's 11th with 47 home runs as a team. But if you look at the conference only stats, as you pointed out, I believe you said third, right?
They're near the top,
correct.
second, third, something like that.
So 32 of their 47 home runs have been in conference play. So they have not hit a lot of home runs outside of conference, but as the weather's warmed up and they've gotten into conference play, they're just like terrorizing people. It's nuts.
Yeah. I like Kentucky here, and guys, I think my next team would probably be FSU. I look at this two different ways, right? So, to me, it'd be FSU versus Tennessee for the next spot. And the one thing I do like about FSU, as much as we've bagged on their non-conference schedule, and granted, some of this is probably bolstered by playing Florida 3 times in midweek, but Florida's non-conference season schedule is 41 compared to Tennessee at 141. I think Florida State splits their 2 series coming up against Wake and Duke. And if you look at the remaining schedule, it is extremely favorable after those 2 series. But they got to get to those 2 series first.
Well, and I think you probably at this point also need to talk about North Carolina versus Florida State, because North Carolina very quietly is 14-4 in the league. They've lost the 3 series on the weekends: East Carolina, at Miami, and at Virginia, but they didn't get swept in any of those. And they only have one other loss the entire year, was that midweek game against South Carolina this past week. So, I think they've got a case here as well. I could kind of go either way on that.
Yeah, I'm thinking Florida State. Kendall kind of won me over. His argument was more compelling, Aaron.
Fair enough.
Sorry.
I mean, I'm 0 for 2
North
today.
Carolina, for discussion's sake, guys, North Carolina non-conference reached schedule 33, but they did lose their marquee non-conference series.
Right, but I mean, Florida State didn't.
At least they have one.
Florida didn't play a marquee non-conference series. So, but yeah, I mean, so UNC's remaining schedule at NC State this weekend, pretty interesting series, really. Then home against Virginia Tech, home against Louisville. So
favorable finish.
Yeah, and then at Duke, which is not the easiest, but you got to figure they'll probably go at, I would say, at least 500 in those last 4 series, which would get them to 20 wins in the league, 18 wins in the league, I guess, if they go 500. So I don't know.
Do we think that Florida State? I mean, I think this, but do you think, having seen all these teams, do you think Florida State splits the next 2 weekends, or do you think they lose both?
So let's see. It's
at Wake, at Duke.
At Wake, at Duke. Yeah, the fact that both of those are on the road, I don't love. I think they lose the Wake series. Wake's playing so well right now.
Mhm.
And you know, I still kind of think Duke's the best team in the league, as I've been saying all along. So I mean, I would probably project 2 and 4 for those weekends. I mean, on the road, and then you got home against City State, at Pitt, and then versus Georgia Tech. I mean, probably a you know, you would think they'd probably go 2, maybe win 6 of those 9 games, right? Let's say. So I don't know what's that add up to 6, 8, 18 wins, be about the same. We're projecting them. I think the projection would be about comparable to North Carolina. Really, it's a coin toss.
Mm-hmm.
I would lean FSU, but
I'm fine with that.
North Carolina was a decent sales job. It just wasn't good as mine.
Yeah,
No.
I mean, you want to go 6 for North Carolina here?
I think
Is that
I think that makes sense.
I mean, so let me ask you this. What about Florida State and East Carolina?
Yeah.
East Carolina head-to-head series win. East Carolina, number 18 in the country, non-conference strength of schedule. Much inferior league.
12 RPI. North Carolina 5 and 5.
Little lower.
North Carolina 5 and 5 Q1. East Carolina 3 and 2 Q1. Yeah, I mean it's a discussion.
It's the head-to-head. Is that
right?
Is how much do you weigh that? Because the rest of the resume is not the same.
And that was a split series, right? It was like home, neutral.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, yeah. So it wasn't on a. Okay, that makes it even more difficult.
And it was kind of a razor's edge series too. That last one was total coin toss.
Didn't weather play a part? Didn't they have to move a couple of the games around?
I can't recall that.
I want to say they had to move one of the games. Either way, I mean, I'm fine with North Carolina, but I don't think. I mean, I might feel better about. So here's what I would suggest. I would suggest Tennessee, East Carolina, North Carolina.
So what about the Beavers though?
Oh yeah. Well,
yeah, those guys.
Yeah, I mean, those are the top 9, and one of them, there's not room for all of them. So,
right. Oregon State's, the knock on them is they're 14th in the RPI, and their league is not good, and so it's probably not going to help their RPI. They are 5 and 2 Q1, which is better than East Carolina's 3 and 2.
Yeah,
I still think should they win the Pac-12, that carries a lot more weight still, even in a down Pac-12 year, carries more weight than winning the American.
Agreed.
Yeah, I would say the North Carolina. I would say Tennessee, North Carolina, Oregon State in that order.
I think that makes some sense.
Yeah, that's a good point on the Pac-12 versus the American too. I mean, it doesn't matter how bad the Pac-12 is; it's still going to have more natural cachet with the committee.
Yeah. So what we have so far is A&M, Arkansas, Clemson, Kentucky, Florida State, Tennessee, North Carolina, Oregon State. That would be your top 8, with East Carolina number 9.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay. So then there's the next group for 10 through infinity here. So Virginia, Wake Forest, South Carolina, Oak State, Indiana State, another great RPI.
Yeah.
Nebraska, West Virginia, who's certainly rising quickly. We can talk Vandy, UCF, maybe even DBU and Duke.
Yeah.
So out of all these teams, I have the most confidence at the moment in Virginia, Wake Forest, and Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I have out of those 3 teams, I have the most confidence in Wake Forest. I just think that they've gotten healthy and they figured it out.
Yeah.
And I know they're 9 and 9 in the league, and if the season ended today, they wouldn't maybe be this high, but they're still 10 in the RPI. Despite being 9 and 9 in the league, and the arrow is up.
Good sales job, and I'm with you.
Here's the other thing. I'll add this with UVA guys. Their finish is pretty favorable. They've got Georgia Tech at home, BC on the road, NC State at home, Virginia Tech at home.
Yeah, that's very favorable.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I like both of these teams. Just a matter of where you want to put them. I do like Wake at 10 though.
You could go back to back. Wake 10, Virginia 11. I would actually be okay with that. I think
so. Okay.
It is worth mentioning that UVA does have the head-to-head over Wake.
That's true. Yep. And they're 2 games ahead in the standings. So I mean, you could certainly make that argument.
Do you want to swap them?
I suppose at this stage, that probably does make sense to put Virginia ahead still.
I'm with you.
Based on those two factors.
Okay. So then we're looking at some projections here. Okay. So none of these teams, in my opinion, are really in excellent shape to host. Okay. But they could all get there. And I think it's who do you have the most confidence in coming down the stretch? And honestly, you could throw in a couple of these teams up here as well. Coastal, Alabama, Oklahoma, maybe even Georgia, Irvine, Santa Barbara.
I like what Kendall was saying about Oklahoma State. So in the RPI, they are where? 23. It's a little low. I mean, it feels like at this point, I mean, it's the Big 12, gosh, it's just hard to figure out. So here's the state of the Big 12. You got Oklahoma tied with West Virginia for first place at 11-4. OU is 20 in the RPI. West Virginia is 27. And then you got Oklahoma in the middle at 23 with just one game back in the standings at 10-5. And Oklahoma has the head-to-head series wins. Did they beat both of them head-to-head? I know they beat West Virginia and Oklahoma back-to-back weeks. Yeah. So yeah, I kind of think Oklahoma State is the top of the pecking order there.
Okay. With Witherholt coming back, does West Virginia certainly seems like a different kind of club now. They're going to go on a run.
Yeah, they're getting there. They're and Witherholt's. It's worth noting he's still well short of 100%. Like he's still DHing. He can't really run. So like the speed element that is so important.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's still Witherholt. He can hit, but like he's a long way from being Witherholt. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, they've gotten healthier. They had a lot of injuries. I mean, Randy Mazie said this was the most injured club he's ever had, and they're getting healthier. And it's kind of like Wake Forest, where it's like arrows pointing up. But I do still think like given the fact that they did lose the head-to-head to Oklahoma State, and they've pretty comparable resumes, I probably still lean Oklahoma State.
I have a question for you, Aaron. I'm hearing that David Hageman may be out for a very long time.
Ooh.
How does that change their dynamic?
Oh, that's a big blow if that's the case. I did not know about that. He pitched last time I saw him on Saturday up there. He pitched great. Was it Saturday? I think it was Saturday or Friday, whatever it was. He was really good. And it's a key piece in their bullpen. So if he's out for extended time, that's a problem. He's the best bullpen arm for sure.
Okay.
So we thinking Oak State here? Or is there another?
I mean, the Sycamores, we probably do need to talk about them. This is where I think we need to talk about them. They're 8 in the RPI. They're 10-2 in their league. They haven't lost a conference series in 2 years or something. I mean, maybe you slide them in here. It's a good spot, and then Oklahoma State.
Well, I mean, the RPI is going to be there, and as we've seen what the committee's done in prior years, you've got a great shot if you're in that top 16, 17, 18 in the RPI. So,
especially when you're dominating your conference again, as a mid-major, it's it's like similar to East Carolina, right? They're just kind of checking the boxes.
Right.
So
you want to do that? Indiana State, then Oklahoma State.
KR?
12 and 13. So then we're looking at 3 more host spots. So I do think there'll be another SEC team in this mix, whether it's South Carolina, Vandy, Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi State maybe could get there. I don't want to talk about Florida.
Oh boy.
No.
Don't
even think about it.
I don't know. One of those was certainly going to get there. Maybe, maybe another. I don't know.
So looking at the standings, you got 8 and 7, South Carolina and Vanderbilt, right? Gamecocks 15 RPI, Vanderbilt 17 RPI.
Yep.
There is a head-to-head there.
South Carolina
swept them.
South Carolina swept, so that's pretty loud to me. It seems like South Carolina has just been hanging around, and now they're just kind of putting themselves in pretty good position to host. I kind of think that, They did lose the head-to-head to Alabama, but Alabama's 6-9 in the league.
They do have Arkansas, Kentucky, and Tennessee still left to go.
Well, then, and Georgia at home
And
and at Missouri, not A&M. We're talking about South Carolina, right?
Yeah.
They lost the A&M series 2 weeks
right.
ago at home.
They've already played them.
Yeah. So, you're right. I mean, the remaining schedule isn't the easiest, but it helps that they have Arkansas and Kentucky both at home. And then you're at Missouri and you have Georgia at home. So, I mean, if I don't know that they're the favorite to win the series against Arkansas, Kentucky, but the fact that they're at home makes it kind of a coin toss. I don't know. I mean, almost, at the very least, almost a coin toss.
I think you're going to have a lot of these teams right in that 16 SEC, 15, 16 SEC win mark.
Which is where it feels like the Gamecocks probably project is right in that range. I kind of like their chance. For me, if I have to pick one of this group, I think I pick them.
Yeah.
I
Would
mean,
they be
Georgia,
next, or is there someone else?
And Georgia's the other one to talk about. They're 7-8, but they're higher in the RPI at number 11. Let's see here. As far as quality series wins, it's the sweep of Alabama.
Yeah. And
that's it, really. But they've got Ole Miss at home this weekend, and they're at A&M versus Vandy, at South Carolina versus Florida. And I don't know about you guys. I mean, maybe Florida will just totally pack it in and just be done by then. But I kind of think maybe by the end of the year, they'll have something figured out and be more dangerous. I don't know. But regardless, it's a harder remaining. I don't know.
Can I give you, since we're projecting here,
Yeah.
Can I give you a team that I would like to put in?
Please.
If we're projecting, when you look at the remaining schedule, is Duke.
Oh, yeah. We haven't talked about Duke yet. The heck?
Yeah, the RPI is not great. I mean, they're 25 right now. They still have FSU and North Carolina at home. Granted, I don't know how much of a home field advantage North Carolina at home is, but still, they do play them at home.
And
Georgia Tech on the road, Vol Tech on the road.
And I mentioned this on a recent pod. They've done since moving back to campus, they've got a much better home field environment than they've had for years, ever that I've been around the program for 20 years. And the series against Virginia a couple weeks ago was the best it's ever been as far as atmosphere is concerned. So I thought that was interesting. That said, you're right. I mean, plenty of Tar Heel fans in the building there. It's not a long road trip from North Carolina. It's a full 8 miles down the road, I think. But anyway, I like Duke a lot. I've said that repeatedly. I still think they're the best team in the league, and I would like to have them as projected as a host.
Okay. So somewhere in this mix, huh?
Yeah, somewhere in the mix.
Yeah, I would put them in the pile of somewhere in there.
Yeah.
South Carolina and Duke would be two that I would have in some order. We've got 3 spots left.
Yep.
Duke, South Carolina, and leaves us with one more. I mean, I think West Virginia has a pretty good case.
It's West Virginia or Nebraska for me, and I know Nebraska stumbled last weekend.
Yeah, and it just feels like the Big Ten's a mess.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really see them coming out of there with a host. I mean, they're 1-5 Q1. They're kind of sliding. It's just a jumbled mess in that league. I like West Virginia, I think.
Okay. So the order here, I kind of like this order, but
Duke, South Carolina, West Virginia.
Hey, what about Coastal? Coastal has Louisiana at home this weekend.
Yeah. If they win that series, then let's revisit next week.
I agree.
And they may.
You stole my words.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly the way I would view it, because Louisiana's playing so well right now. Their RPI is awful. So, I mean, they could be a team, if they continue to win and continue to dominate, that the committee could just look at the RPI and goes, it's just not reflective, right? This is a better team, and they could get in this mix, but that happens so rare.
Gosh, they're 56. How are they 56? Well, I'll tell you how. They're 16-4 against Q4, 20 games against Q4. Just
a lot of games against the bottom.
Woof. Yeah, that's tough to overcome. Wow. So I like where we're at here. I think Duke, South Carolina, West Virginia for the last 3 makes a lot of sense to me.
Keep it on. By the way, keep it on Oklahoma. They're a team that a lot of people kind of
don't know what to do with.
Threw in the trash can a little bit after getting swept by Lamar and losing 2 out of 3 to Oklahoma State, but they sweep Kansas State, and guys, they're all the way up to 20 in the RPI with an 11-4 league record.
Yeah,
I'm just kind of looking at the remaining schedule. They have Texas or at BYU this week, Texas at home, at Texas Tech, Baylor at home, and at Cincinnati. So kind of a mixed bag of home versus road there.
Quick PSA if you're a Cajuns fan. PSA to everybody, really. Just don't schedule Rice in the non-conference. You're not, it's not 1998. It's not 2004. You're not helping yourself.
Yeah.
And don't lose twice to him, by the way.
Yeah. 12 and 25 Rice is 238 in the RPI, and they played them at home and lost 2 out of 3. So that's just
that's a killer.
Devastating.
I would also say this too. Like here's like the other team for me, and I don't really like the remaining schedule very much. But Alabama, even though they're 6-9, they do have A&M at home this weekend.
Yeah.
If they can win the Arkansas and A&M series, to me that kind of washes out like a Georgia weekend or something like that.
They've just got to win a road game in the SEC.
Yeah.
They're 0-6 right now.
Yeah, I mean, even if they take 2 out of 3 against the Aggies, that still leaves them at 7-10 in the league, right?
They still have to go back-to-back weekends on the road. Their Final Four series are on the road.
Yeah, and again, even if they take 2 out of 3, against the Aggies, they're still 7-10 in the league. And as we've seen, you don't host with below, even with the 500, you got to be above 500. There's one time, right, Mark? It happened last year. Was it the first time we had a 500
Florida
team?
went 15-15 and then went on a run in Hoover, right?
Yeah,
so they had something else.
That's right. Yeah.
So the aggregate was much higher than 500.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I'm with you there. Alabama's short. If they beat A&M and then they go and win a road series, then let's have a discussion about the Tide. So with that, we have our top 16, and now we'll move on to conference by conference view. And we're going to start in the American East, where we have Bryant, right?
How about that? The return of the Bryant Athletic Conference, guys.
Any dissenters on Bryant?
No. Our man Stitchhead was up there and covered the Bulldogs this past weekend and wrote a story about how they're back, baby.
Good stuff. So with the AAC, there's East Carolina. Is there anyone else?
I don't think so. The next best RPI team is UTSA, who is in first place in the standings at 9-3, a game ahead of ECU, but they're 83 in the RPI, and I don't see it. I think it's a 1-bid league.
Yeah, I would agree. So the A10, St. Louis.
The Billies indeed are still in first place at 7-2. I think that remains the projection. Yes, you got VCU there with a slightly better RPI, but obviously it's a 1-bid league, so it's just who you like, and I like the Billies.
Okay.
Yeah, interesting race though. You've got VCU, Dayton, and Richmond all only a game back out of first.
Yep.
Right.
It could be a very interesting conference tournament.
You going?
I will not be there.
Okay.
Sorry.
Let's go to the Atlantic Coast Conference. So we've got let's see, already in as host Clemson, Duke, not in order. Clemson, Duke, North Carolina, Virginia, Florida State, and Wake Forest.
Goodbye, Miami.
Who do you project as the automatic? Clemson?
I think you have to at this point.
Okay.
And then we've got NC State, number 30 in the RPI, 10-8 in the league. They're it's a yo-yo team. They're still in here. Virginia Tech, 11-7, 34 RPI. They're in.
Yep.
Is that it? I think that might be it, guys.
So there would be the only other people would be Boston College,
7-11. Yeah, BC 7-11 in the league, 42 RPI. So RPI is in range. Record is not. Miami, as you said, 6-12 in the league. No, with a 60-something RPI.
Yep. Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech 7-8 in the league.
RPI.
Notre Dame.
Yeah, no. 2-16 in the league, but 40 RPIs. They got that going for them.
That's why they're on the list, right?
And Louisville 7. I think Kendall was saying 7-8 with an 84 RPI. Georgia Tech is 66 RPI, but yeah, none of those teams are in.
Okay, so I'm gonna take them off the board.
Yeah, you can take them off the board.
Boston College.
I think
they would be the only one I would have pause about.
So let's take a look at their schedule. It's at Notre Dame this weekend versus Virginia versus Louisville at Clemson. I mean, they got a shot. You could project them if they win 6 of their final 12, get to 13 wins. That's very bubbly for ACC team.
Right.
It can be done.
Put them on the bubble.
Yeah, you can put them on the bubble
and just see what's left.
Yeah,
right?
We'll do that. I'll do it. Boston College in yellow.
Okay.
Onward to the A-Sun.
I will say on Georgia Tech real quick. Even though we do not have them in, they do have a huge weekend ahead. I mean, they're at Auburn and then 3 at Virginia. Then they have Kennesaw next Tuesday at home, and Kennesaw's RPI is 37. So they're playing RPI 39, RPI 9 3 times, and the RPI 37 on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So the Jackets actually have an opportunity here over the next week to really help their
Oh
position.
yeah, they got a path. They can play their way in. They just got to
Yep.
show us some consistency.
Yeah.
Not sure I'm believing in that one.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, maybe, hey, prove us wrong, Jackets. You got talent. We know you got talent.
The Sun, Kennesaw.
Speaking of the Owls, 10-5.
Yeah.
Four-way tie for first place.
That was an unintentional segue, by the way.
Well done indeed. Four-way tie for first place. Stetson, Kennesaw, Gulf Coast, and Jacksonville, all 10-5 in the league. But only one of those teams has an RPI inside the top 115, and that's Kennesaw at 37. So potentially a scenario where Kennesaw gets an at-large bid if somebody else wins the automatic, and this becomes a 2-bid league. So put that on your stolen bid watch.
Yep. Okay. Next up, we have the Big 12.
We do.
So I'm assuming we're projecting Oak State.
I think that's
the automatic.
I think that's the play.
Okay.
And then, West Virginia, Oklahoma
West Virginia
are in.
would be in. Oklahoma would be in. UCF would be in.
I guess so.
Yeah, for this week.
Yeah. RPI 13. They're still 8-10. They still have some quality series wins.
Yeah.
Kansas State. What do you do with them?
Out. Well, no, their RPI is 38.
Yeah.
I mean,
and they're 7-8 in the league.
7 against Q1.
Yeah, but that's all that said. I mean, 7-8 is still a better conference record than UCF and TCU. That's
bubble.
Bubble for sure.
Yeah,
and then TCU.
Kansas can come out completely. By the way,
Kansas is out.
92 RPI.
Yeah.
Texas Tech, TCU.
Yeah, and Texas Tech 9-9 in the league, but lost the head-to-head to TCU. But TCU 7-11 in the league, both in the 30s in the RPI.
I think Texas.
I would put Texas Tech in right now.
They had played really well up until the TCU series.
Yeah, I agree. I think their combination.
Off in a record, I would have them in.
Yep. I would have Texas Tech ahead of K-State and TCU, but behind UCF in the pecking order.
Okay. And then TCU would be bubble, or would they be in?
Bubble, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, they're very comparable to Kansas State. I mean, they're only separated by a few spots in RPI, and they're actually behind K-State in the conference standings.
Does Texas have a pulse?
A pulse, sure.
I mean, they're 67. Like, you're not getting in the tournament at 67. So the big thing would be, how do we project Texas to finish? So, let's do that.
And they are 9-6 in the league too. So it's at least they have that going for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they have TCU this weekend at home. They're at OU, Oklahoma State at home, at UCF, and then Kansas at home.
Yeah.
It's the Big 12, so who the hell knows?
Yeah, I mean, it's a crapshoot every weekend.
So currently on our list, we've got Oklahoma State, West Virginia, Oklahoma, UCF, Texas Tech, Kansas State, TCU, Texas, in that order. Does that sound right?
So you've got Kansas State in?
Bubble, I guess, still. Not
Okay.
definitely in. I'll put them in yellow.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay.
It's weird to have Texas behind TCU given the standings, but the RPI is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean they're separated by
As we saw with OU and Kansas State last year.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, TCU's 5 games back in the loss column of Texas, in the loss column.
Yeah.
That's significant. But yeah, that's tricky. That's tricky. It's a mess.
Okay. Very bubblish.
Yeah.
So Big East. Is UConn back, or are you still going Creighton? Or St. John's?
Georgetown. Georgetown's 8-1.
Yeah.
Georgetown's in first place.
They're on the list.
53 RPI too. I like their team. I like their team in the fall.
I mean, their schedule's backloaded though. I mean,
they haven't played
Connecticut
the good teams yet.
at Creighton, Xavier, at St. John's to finish. So the other four better teams in the league they have remaining. They
Right.
played the weakest part of the league, but they are definitely much better.
Yeah, you can. So yes, like it's tricky. Like it's almost like Kentucky was a couple weeks ago, where it's like, oh yeah, they're 8-1 in the league, but their schedule's kind of backloaded. But maybe it just turns out they're solid. You know, maybe they're
I
just
would
playing
go with
good.
Georgetown. I mean, the only thing is they do host Connecticut this weekend.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
So
huge.
maybe they take that series. I mean, this
Yeah.
is one of those we can always flip.
yeah,
So-
and they're they're 26-9 in the league too, which is I
Overall.
mean overall rather, which is
Yeah.
pretty loud. I think I like it. I think I like Georgetown.
Interesting. Okay.
Georgetown
one bid
baseball's
league?
back, baby.
Yeah, I mean, you could put some more on the worksheet here because I mean, Creighton is definitely on the bubble with a 46 RPI and 26-7 overall. It's so funny. This league's only 2 weekends. Some of these teams are only 2 weekends into conference, right? Creighton's 3-3. UConn's 4-2. UConn's still below 500 overall. I would not put them on the sheet.
Okay. And then
think-
Xavier?
No, they're below 500 overall. Despite being 33 in the RPI, we need to see more wins there. St. John's is 23-7, 57 RPI. That's like on the radar, but I think having lost the series to UConn this past weekend, I would probably keep them off as well.
Okay.
So I would put Creighton on there as a potential bubble team. Does that make sense? And then the rest remain in show me mode because like you got 3 teams with good RPIs that are below 500 overall. So let's see what we can do here. Or 2 teams, I should say. Xavier and
I
UConn.
mean, and honestly, it's the strength of the schedule, right?
Yep.
Connecticut and Xavier went out and just played tons of great teams, and the other 2 didn't. And that's why. And we'll see which one is more effective in conference play, how prepared you were, right? Because you always hear, you got to play tough teams so you're ready for conference play. Well, we're about to find out. We're going to have a great example of 2 different scheduling philosophies.
And I'm about to, speaking of which, I'm about to, right after this podcast, drive down to UConn to see them play at Kansas State, just like a kind of just a neat bit of scheduling for both those teams. And then K-State plays at Northeastern tomorrow. I'll be there too.
Right. Okay.
So anyway, it's kind of neat to see these teams aggressively scheduling and see how that plays out for them.
Totally. So Big South is next, and that's going to be Upstate.
Correcto. Upstate is 10-2 in the league, tied for first with my Blue Hose. I've been talking up the Blue Hose guys. I like the Blue Hose, but 191 RPI. I mean, they're not. It's at large or bust. I mean, automatic or bust rather for those guys. But yeah, Upstate's still the pick.
Okay. Big Ten. It's I guess you got to put Nebraska in as the projected, right?
Yeah, I think that's still the play.
Are they still a 2 or are they a 3 now?
I think 2 is fine. 16 RPI.
I agree.
6-3 in the league. It's not like they're like buried. Illinois is in first place at 7-2, 69 RPI, 20-13 overall. I mean, it's just 0-7 Q1. It's just not there really.
They just haven't played the meat of their schedule yet.
You got Purdue next. With Purdue and Michigan both 8-4. 71 RPI, Purdue, 103 Michigan. I just no.
Maryland
is no now. I mean, they're down to 5-7 in the league with a 52 RPI. That's in 8th place. No. Iowa, we talked about no, 126 RPI. Indiana, we had on the radar. I mean, again, keep them on the radar. They could make a second half surge, but right now it's a clear no with 70 RPI.
Right.
Ohio State is the next best RPI at 44, 17-15 overall. I mean, no. Is this a 1 bid league right now? Is that what we're really saying?
Yeah.
Rutgers, 45 RPI.
Rutgers would be the next team. Yeah.
But they're in 10th place. They're 3-6. Like, I can't do it. I can't pull that trigger.
It's you're 3 weeks in, but
yeah, I know.
Still.
You're right. To this point, I mean, Rutgers is a weird team to figure out because they took 2 out of 3 from Nebraska this past weekend. Before that, they were swept at home by Purdue, and they lost 2 out of 3 at Michigan State. I mean, it's just like, who knows, man? They also took 2 out of 3 from UConn, though, the week before that.
Yeah, I think they're still on the bubble. I mean, obviously they've shown they can beat good teams.
Yeah. Won a series at Old Dominion also.
They can also lose to teams that they shouldn't.
So let's go ahead and keep Rutgers on the board then in yellow. We'll take Maryland off here. And that is right now. Is that it? Is that all we're? I mean, is there anyone? Am I missing something here? The Big Ten?
No.
Illinois.
Illinois just haven't. I mean, look at who they beat in conference, and it's just not there yet. So
Minnesota, Penn State.
Let's check back in a couple of weeks.
They did take 2 or 3 from Indiana, which was a team we liked in the preseason, but right now that's not really holding up.
Yeah.
So yeah, check back. Okay.
So then next up is the Big West. And I'm thinking Irvine and Santa Barbara here.
Yeah, that's correct.
Santa Barbara's actually passed Irvine in the RPI in the last week.
Yeah, Gaucho's 19, Anteaters 21. Anteaters tied for first with your Mustangs of Cal Poly, but they're, of course, 127 RPI. So, yeah, 2 bits, Irvine, Santa Barbara.
Okay. All right. And
next
Coastal. Up is, CAA. So
I think you should clearly move the auto bid to UNCW.
I think I was making that case maybe last. I don't know if
I was kidding. I was kidding. I was trying to get you to defend Northeastern.
I like UNCW. I like UNCW is the issue. I project them as a regional team heading into the year, and they are in first place at 10-2. But yes, I still believe in Northeastern the most. I would still.
One bid league.
Yeah, it's looking.
Campbell, by the way, we had in last week. Campbell now 6-6 with a 79 RPI.
Yeah, it's going to be light.
Yeah, Wilmington 10-2 in the league. They are in first, a game ahead of Northeastern and Charleston, but they're 81 in the RPI. Charleston's 80 in the RPI. I mean, like maybe those teams can make a surge. I just worry about the bottom end of that league. You got some anchors down there with Elon, Monmouth, Hofstra, and Towson all outside the top 200. And even if you've already played those teams, if they continue to lose, it's just going to continue to drag your RPI down.
Right.
So
we thinking 1 here?
I think so.
Nobody else on the bubble?
I don't think so.
No.
81. Wilmington's on the radar, but not on the bubble with an 81 RPI. Okay. Conference USA.
Yeah, CUSA. So we've got DBU and
that's it.
That's probably it.
Western Kentucky's had a really nice year, to say the least. They're on a heater right now, 8-2 in their last 10, but they're 93 in the RPI.
How about this is hilarious. This is funny because not too long ago we were talking about how bad Liberty was, how they lost 10, I don't know, 7 in a row, 8 in a row. And they're still, 17 and 18 overall, but they're in first place at 9-3 in the league. So they're not going to be that large team, but it's just interesting. They've kind of righted the ship over there, made things muddled. They kind of like taking the Cal Poly route. They're just going to mess things up for everybody else.
Right.
But yeah, DBU, that's it, guys.
Okay. So moving on, the Horizon. Are we still like the Norse?
Fear the Norse, 11-4 in the league. They did stumble this past weekend, lost 2 out of 3 to Wright State at home. Wright State is suddenly just 10-5, a 1 game back from Northern Kentucky, and they won the head-to-head on the road.
Yeah. You want to flip it?
Is it time to make that change, guys?
I mean, that's pretty loud if they're a game back and just 1 head-to-head on the road.
And they're the and they're the
juggernaut in the conference.
Exactly, the historical power. So I think I flip it.
Yeah, I'm with you. Okay, Ivy. Still Columbia.
Yeah, we had Columbia last week, or 2 weeks ago rather. They're 9-3 in first place. Only team in that league with a winning overall record, 15-14. So the Lions of Columbia remain the bid.
And Aaron, I'm going to defer to you for this next conference.
Oh, you mean the MAC?
Yeah, it's still funny after all these years. Let's go with Niagara here.
We've got a choice to make. Niagara, the Purple Eagles, 9-0 in the league. Riders 11-1, but yeah, I like Niagara. I think we stick with that.
Okay.
22-9 overall, and.
Well, I mean, I definitely defer to you on all things MAC.
Well, thank you. That's my beat.
Yeah.
They actually play at Ryder for what's, I mean, it's, there's going to be no at-large bid, so it means nothing. It's all about the conference tournament, but they play at Ryder in 2 weeks, so that'll help us out with some clarity.
Okay. Now just the regular old MAC.
Yeah, Mid-American Conference. Your Falcons of Bowling Green, 15-0, just a few short years after they disbanded the program.
Yeah, great story.
Awesome stuff there. Also an 88 RPI, guys. Like, you're not going to get to that large range, but they're within a stone's throw. It's kind of neat.
Next up is the Indiana State Athletic Conference.
Indeed. The Larry Bird Athletic Conference. One other team on the radar here is UIC, and in the Missouri Valley Conference. They're 7-5, tied for second place with 3 other teams: Illinois State, Belmont, Evansville. But UIC the only one with a viable at-large case with a 54 RPI. It feels, well. Let's take a closer look. Let's not give them short shrift here.
Okay.
Murray State's at 50.
Murray State's at 50, but they're a little farther down the standings, not too far down, 6-6, just a game back. UIC just took 2 out of 3 from Missouri State. They swept Southern Illinois. They were swept at Indiana State. Took 2 out of 3 at Belmont, 2 out of 3 from Edwardsville, St. Thomas, Ohio. They did win a series against Kansas to start the year. Anyway, it feels still a little light, but I mean, should we add them to the worksheet? Or is it just probably not going to be room for?
I mean, if you want.
Mark with a lot of conviction on that one. I don't think so. I think we can still wait and see on that.
Okay.
I mean, realistically, it just doesn't look likely to come to fruition.
Okay.
Mountain West, we've got Fresno State last time. They remained the team at 14-4 overall.
Keep an eye on Air Force, though.
Yeah, 4 games back, 8-6 in the league. Well, I guess only 2 games back in the loss column, but 1 bid league though. Your best RPI is Fresno at 97. So, but yeah, I mean, I think Fresno's a good club.
Okay. The NEC.
Sacred
Heart last week.
Yeah, they remain.
Yeah, let's take with this Sacred Hearts.
Yeah, 14-4. They're in first place. Only team in the league with a winning overall.
The Fighting
record.
Pioneers.
Yeah, 18-14. Only team in the league with a winning overall record. Also the best RPI in the league.
Okay.
152.
OVC. We had Little Rock last week.
Yeah, the 3-way tie for first.
Yeah, so Tennessee Tech, Little Rock, and SEMO are all 8-4. Head-to-heads here. You've got, let's see, Little Rock took 2 out of 3 from SEMO. They have not yet.
Still stick Little Rock. They haven't played Tennessee Tech. I don't even know if they actually.
That's the final weekend. They play at Tennessee Tech, but again, it's going to be an auto bid only. I still like Little Rock's team the best.
Sure.
Although
Pac-12.
Oh boy.
All right, Oregon State, Oregon, Arizona is obviously very safely, and keep it on Arizona too with their winning streak. They're now up to 28 in the RPI. They continue on this streak. They will get in the hosting contention as well.
They won 11 in a row. Like, definitely keep an eye on them. We should edit that back into the first half of the conversation. Keep an eye on Arizona.
Yeah.
Pat, are you listening? Edit that in, would you?
So how do you view USC right now? Because it was just such a bad start, but they're playing. I mean, they're a different team now than they were a month ago.
Making progress.
I would have them on the bubble. I mean, we might end up having a huge bubble. I mean, they're more than likely out at 77.
They're 17.
They will be out.
They're 17 and 18 overall. So I would say, like, I refuse to put any team on the bubble with a losing overall record.
Yeah.
And so listen up, Florida. If you lose 2 more games, you're below 500. You're not even on the bubble. I'm not going to do it. But
so they're out.
But keep an eye on.
Keep an eye
on.
Utah. Keep an eye on Cal.
Yeah.
I would have Utah in right now.
Series win over the weekend.
Yeah, Utah would be in right
Wazoo. Now. They're up to 76 in the RPI. They're 4 games out of first place. And
Cal, yeah.
They have Oregon State at home this weekend. So golden opportunity.
Are they bubble or are they out?
I would say they're out. I don't think you're getting in
Yeah.
as a Pac-12 team at 76.
Okay.
Well, certainly, yeah. They need to keep on. They're in the same category as USC, like keep an eye on category.
Yeah.
And I think that's really the end of the keep an eye on categories. USC and Cal, and nobody else really has a chance.
Okay. So now we look
Patriot.
at the Patriot.
I would
and-
stick with Army.
Yeah, Army 9-5, Navy 11-7. I'm not going to bet against Army until future notice.
Okay. So now the SEC, and you've got several hosts: A&M, Arkansas. Or who are you projecting to win the league? I mean, we projected A&M to win that series, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they would win the.
I mean, I think the team that
Automatic.
we have higher, we should just make the auto bid.
Works for me.
Yeah.
So, of the teams that are not hosting, certainly I would have Alabama and Georgia in the field.
Yep.
And I would have Mississippi State in the field.
Yep.
Guys, I think we can punch your Bayou Bengals.
Yeah, I mean, it's at this point, I would project them to have 11 SEC wins.
Yeah.
That's where I had them.
I would think that maybe they get a 12th, but they didn't do a whole lot in non-conference. There was a whole lot of home games against teams that are not going to help them, so they'll have an RPI problem. So it's one thing you've seen SEC teams get into the field with 12 wins before, but it's because their RPI was in the 20s.
And even that's
not
rare.
LSU.
Yeah, and even that's rare.
Yeah,
12
very
wins.
rare, very rare. And I do think that because, I mean, even at 13, they might have a problem.
Yeah.
Right? They would need to do something in Hoover. And maybe they can. I mean, they certainly won a lot of games there. But the problem I've got is they're going to have to sweep people, and they aren't pitching well enough for 3 straight games to do that. Even if they get the good starts, they don't have guys that can close out the game. So expecting sweeps from them something's going to have to change for them to get there.
Yeah, and Ole Miss at 29 in the RPI, but 5-10, and frankly, I don't have much faith they're going to finish very strong.
The remaining schedule, just for the sake of due diligence, because we've been
At
down
Georgia.
this road. We've been down this road with Ole Miss being 5-10 in the SEC. So let's just make sure we do due
It
diligence
has
here.
happened.
Has happened. At Georgia versus Alabama, at Auburn versus A&M, at LSU. I mean, who knows, man? It's just this league is so weird this year. But yeah, I mean, I would say for now, I would probably still hold off at Ole Miss.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to be an 11th SEC team, you better have a really strong resume.
Yeah. So currently we've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, A&M, Arkansas, Kentucky, Tennessee, South Carolina, Georgia, Vanderbilt, Alabama, Mississippi State, and Florida on the bubble. So that'd be 10. And Mississippi State, for the record, not that secure with a 49 RPI, 7-8 in the league. Like, you got to feel like if they can get to 14 wins in the league, they'll probably be fine. But it's not guaranteed if their RPI stays roughly where it is. Like, they could be in trouble.
It's the midweek losses.
Yeah.
Right? That's really
I would say this.
and all the home games.
With Ole Miss having such a huge RPI advantage and having the head-to-head, I would at least put Ole Miss on here on the bubble, because who knows? Like right now, as you look at it, with Ole Miss included, we're just now at 64.
You're right. Put the Flames back on the board. UIC, come on.
We can do that.
We maybe should at this point. We may have room for them. In fact, I'm going to go back and do that.
Okay.
All right. How do we feel about Florida, guys? I mean, it's only a 43 RPI, and they're 18 and 17.
Really challenging finishing stretch. So, I mean,
at Vandy, at Arkansas, Tennessee at home, Kentucky at home, at Georgia.
Gosh,
brutal.
Almighty.
Brutal.
That's and they kind of stink right now, guys. Like, that's not sugar.
I mean, I would keep them in for now, but yeah, I mean, they are on borrowed time.
Yeah, I think they're on the bubble.
Yeah.
Is where they are, and we need to look at them compared to the other teams. Strictly because, I mean, obviously, if they play to their talent, they can beat anybody. It's just they aren't doing that. I mean, it's the only way they score is with a solo homer, It takes a lot of those to overcome that pitching staff. So it's I mean, they've got issues.
Not great, Bob. All right. Well, for now, we've got Florida and Ole Miss both on the bubble in. Let's go to the SoCon. There's nobody else. I mean, no, there's not right now.
We took LSU out. So
yeah. Okay. SoCon
be Samford.
8-1 league is in first place by 2 games clear of Wofford. You got some teams that are like in spitting distance, shouting distance, RPI wise, but it's not going to happen, and that never happens in that league. 73 Samford, 64 Wofford, 60 Greensboro. It's just not going to. It's just not going to happen. Like if they were sitting, in a 30 right now, then you have a different conversation. And even then, they tend to slide back. Like we've seen that happen to Wofford repeatedly.
Every year seems like.
Yeah.
Okay. Southland, it's got to be Lamar, right?
Oh yeah.
Yep. They're 8-1
RPI, 8-1 in the league, 29-6 overall.
Yeah, that's the answer. And it's a 1 bid league.
Okay. The SWAC. Last week we did Bethune. When I looked at it earlier, I thought maybe FAMU. I don't know.
Florida A&M is 13-2 in the league. Have they played Bethune? They've not played Bethune yet, have they? I don't think so. No, they have. They lost 2 or 3 on the road, but they play them again.
Anybody else?
FAMU is coming off a series sweep of Mississippi Valley, and nobody rolled into Ida Bena and gets a series sweep. Never been to Ida Bena, Mississippi. Mark, how is it?
Ida Bena.
Oh, Ida Bena. My apologies.
Yeah. Oh, you hadn't been there? Yeah, I'll get you added to the travel brochures.
Okay.
Let's see. Next up is the Summit, and we did North Dakota State. Are we still doing that?
So North Dakota State's 10-21.
Yeah.
Gosh, Oral Roberts guy's still in last place. What the heck?
I mean, it makes it hard. You're not themselves.
You're coming off an Omaha, a run to the college, the Division I Men's College World Series. Okay, not just the road series to Omaha. They were not just playing the Mavericks 2 out of 3. They went to Omaha. It was in June, guys. It was in mid to late June, and they played well there. And they're in last place in the Summit League.
Yeah.
I just okay.
Oh man, sorry.
290. Jesus, they're 292 in the RPI, guys.
They remind me of.
They were in Omaha last year. For Pete's sake, what are we doing?
What about those other teams in Omaha? How are they doing? Like LSU and Florida.
Or
Mississippi State and Ole Miss the 2 years before that.
Oh my Lord!
Don't go to Omaha. You're going to kill your future.
Don't go to Omaha. That's the moral of this story. Holy crap! Though 292. There's only 304 teams. I mean, for Pete's sake, it's insane. Guys,
you got to pick somebody. This conference gets an automatic bid.
St. Thomas eligible, right? Or not?
I don't think so.
True, who could say so?
Or maybe I'm just so used to them being not eligible that they're still not.
Oh my Lord. Gosh almighty. The Mavs are 8-7. Gosh.
I'm no help here.
I mean, is this the worst league in the history of sports right now? Like the 2024 Summit League? Like since I mean, we're going to put a 10-21 team as our projected auto bid. Really? 10 and 21? Are we serious?
I feel like you're overthinking this.
I'm disgusted by this. Like, can we just leave this one blank?
They're going to make a conference tournament run. We've had teams with bad overall records before do that. So,
I mean, South Dakota State. I mean, 7-7 in the league, 14-18 overall.
We've already spent more time than this league deserves.
Put South Dakota State in. I can't. I'm too disgusted to put anyone else in. At least South Dakota State's 14-18. Put them in. Best RPI. I don't know. 218 RPI. Make that
Okay.
change.
It's in. All right.
Hey,
So
Summit League, get it together, would you please?
Yeah.
Enough of this crap. God. Let's go to the Sun
moving
Belt.
to a much better baseball league, the Sun Belt. Louisiana would be your projected champion, automatic.
Yep.
Yeah.
After that, you got Coastal, you got Southern Miss, and then you got some teams that have a chance, right?
Yeah, Old Dominion would be in the mix. James Madison would be in the mix.
Yeah, so JMU 26 RPI, 21 and 14 overall, 7 and 8 in the league. It's just a cluster.
Georgia
Once again,
Southern.
we've got a
Yeah, they're all jumbled together. Troy, they're all kind of within striking distance, right?
Yeah.
Southern Miss 9 and 6 with a 47 RPI. I would have them probably as the third team.
And Georgia State handled them last weekend.
That's true. But Georgia State's 75 in the RPI and just 18 and 17.
Yeah.
They're slow. But you're right. Like that's a mark against Southern Miss.
I'm just sad at my Texas State Bobcats are 119 in the RPI.
They didn't even make my sheet.
Did not see that coming.
You got Georgia Southern on the radar, 9 and 6 with a 61 RPI. You mentioned Troy, but they're 72 RPI.
You know.
I mean,
I think somebody in that group will probably elevate, but who knows who it is.
Yeah, I mean, right now JMU's in the best RPI shape, but they just lost 2-3 to Old Dominion, lost 2-3 at Georgia State, lost 2-3 to Texas State, lost 2-3 to Coastal. I'm not feeling it, guys. I'm not feeling that one.
Hard to have faith they're going to finish strong.
They did play Arkansas though, so they've got a good RPI. They beat them one. They made to their credit, they beat them 1 out of 4.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm not feeling that one. Is it a 2-bid league right now?
It's 3 because of Coastal.
Well, so who's the
Louisiana.
third? Louisiana, Coastal, then who?
Southern Miss.
Okay, so you still have Southern Miss in despite this past weekend. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair. I'll put them in yellow because I think their resume is kind of bubblish right now, but there probably will be room for them. All right. West Coast Conference.
Okay. Let me get rid of some of these.
Your Zags are 10 and 2, just 14 and 18 overall, though. Portland 8 and 1, guys.
And then San Diego.
Portland just took 2 out of 3 from San Diego this past weekend. San
So
Diego
would they be the automatic Portland?
I think so for me. Torero's 31 RPI though. That's very much on the worksheet, I think. So kind of the same as we had it 2 weeks ago. Portland is the automatic with San Diego as an at-large.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Zags, despite being in first place, they're just 14 and 18 overall. So again, that below 500 overall rule.
Right.
So we'll leave them off. Let's go to the WAC.
Okay. Grand Canyon.
I think so. 11 and 4, 91 RPI. They're actually tied for first with Cal Baptist. But yeah, 1-bid league. I still like the Lopes.
Okay, so bubble.
Gosh, is this the softest bubble in American history?
It's not real good, is it?
Holy cow! Feels like
at this point we've got room for all but one of these teams.
Feels like Bitcoin right now. It's just gonna pop at any minute.
Yeah.
Listen, Bitcoin bros, don't come after me. Don't at me. I don't want to hear it.
So of the
Bitcoin, bro.
Here's our bubble right now: Boston College, Kansas State, TCU, Texas, Creighton, Rutgers, Florida, Illinois, Chicago, Ole Miss, Southern Miss, and San Diego. Hell, you ought to throw LSU back on there now.
Yeah, no, can't go that far.
Can't do that.
Wow, that's soft. I mean,
for me, I would either take BC or UIC off.
Or Ole Miss. I mean, is it 11th team in the SEC at 5 and 10 right now? I don't know. They got more to prove to me. I
kind of think LSU will finish higher than Ole Miss.
Yeah, I would just keep SEC at 10 because like if we had faith in one of these in 11th SEC team, that'd be one thing. But I don't have faith in anyone.
Yeah,
any one of those
I don't
teams.
have faith in them. Would agree, sir.
So that's kind of easy then.
So
Flames
we
are
also
in.
need to pick the next The next 4.
Do we have
I got
to?
Ole Miss.
Who says we have to?
Well, okay, I'll make them up. Ole Miss, St. Peter's, North Dakota State.
Yes. Oh, Roberts, baby.
Yeah, done. Check.
Listen,
See
they were in
y'all next
Omaha
week.
last year, so yeah.
Yeah.
God.
So that's so
Yeah.
you're looking at it. Look at the sheet right now and see if you want to play with the seating any.
Wow. Oh my goodness. I'm not pleased with the state of affairs right now, guys. College baseball, do better, please. Next week, I want a real bubble next week. This is garbage. This is garbage.
Yeah. Take care of business.
Do your job, college baseball. Jeez.
Let's see, who would we take here? Probably go Texas or BC. Texas.
Yeah, so last 4 in UIC, BC, Texas, and gosh.
Creighton.
Yeah. Florida, Southern
Florida.
Miss. I don't know. Rutgers. I mean,
We
I
can go
don't
to
know.
Florida.
We'll put Florida on there. Put them on notice.
And our
You're on
next-
notice, skaters.
Yeah. I'll go back and look and see who we killed. Next week we'll be a little more judicious on our killing.
Yeah, I guess we have to be. I can't believe how soft this bubble is.
Maybe James Madison. We talked about them a good bit.
Yeah, we talked about them.
And let's see, all that's gone. Anyway. So, any final thoughts, guys, other than this was a terribly soft bubble?
I'm spent, guys. I've emptied my holster here. I got nothing. I'm just disgusted with everyone. I want to see better work next week.
Yeah. KR.
What he said.
Yeah, it's not good. And one of the things
Yeah.
that's kind of interesting to me is the SEC looked really good early and not so good now, because a lot of these teams at the top are winning more than you expected, and the teams at the bottom are losing more than you expected, and you're getting that gap and that separation between the two groups.
Yeah.
And because of that, you're not going to have your 11 or 12 teams in this year that we thought might be possible, because at this point you're going to be lucky to get 8 or 9 the way these things going.
Yeah, and you had Florida and LSU, LSU out of the field, Florida on the bubble. We mentioned earlier Florida having a tough schedule in the season. LSU at Missouri this weekend, who Florida kind of showed that that can be a tough place to play at times, just with the elements and things like that. So the two teams that played for national championship last year are in a little bit of a danger zone right now, to say the least.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, this is fun. We'll do it again next week. Make sure you check out all our good stuff that we'll have. And if I may, let me plug my Charlie Condon feature. It will drop on Wednesday morning. Is our Golden Spike Spotlight. Went in depth, kind of got the story behind the story of, hey, this was a guy who was a walk-on. No one recruited him. He had one offer to D3 Rhodes College as a two-way athlete. And he ends up walking on the SEC, and now he's the best player in the country, at least one of them. So I'm really excited and hope that everyone enjoys it.
It's a fantastic piece, a classic Mark Etheridge deep dive. We love those. We get a couple of them every year, and they're always a big highlight. Hey, Mark, thanks for all you do for the game. I just want to say, we appreciate you.
Well, I mean, I'm doing flips to try to cover the game, so it's literally.
Literally, good.
So
I don't know if you told that story on Highway to Hoover.
I did. Yeah, Joe interviewed me about it. Yeah, I flipped in my truck several times last week on the way to a game, so I'm fine. I walked away. I'm still bruised, and I mean, it's 10 days later. I'm still bruised, but
clean living, man. God.
Yeah, right. You got it. Lucky to be here, and so happy to continue this journey with you guys.
We're very just thankful, Mark. It's been a true pleasure as always, and look forward to doing it again next week.
Take care.